Howdy, howdy, folks. Good morning to you. Welcome to my very foggy place today, up at the very top of Towsley Canyon. This fog is like perfect, I think, for the message that wants to come through today, the guidance, the weekly guidance that wants to come through today. A lot of it's going to center on balance. And when I think about balance, I think about gray area, and I think about the sort of the spectrum in between black and white, positive, negative, sort of dualistic thinking. When I think about balance, I think about being in tune with all of it, not just this or that, but this and that, and realizing that all of that stuff exists together, that it's unified as one. So we're going to talk a little bit about balance in today's weekly guidance. I went in my meditation and I asked the questions that I usually ask if I do like a tarot reading for somebody, which I did a bunch of those this weekend at the Phoenix Psychic Fair. Thank you to everybody who I got an opportunity to read for and do the workshop with. Some of you might be following now on Instagram, so thanks. It was a pleasure. I look forward to coming back to Phoenix sometime soon. When I do that spread, I ask for the first information is what energy is carrying us into the week. Then I ask, like, where are we in our power? Where can we step into the flow? Where can we be strong in stepping into our power when it comes to our spiritual power? So that's the second bit of information. And the third bit of information is what are the unconscious influences, maybe the blind spots, things we're not looking at clearly that Spirit wants to bring to our awareness so that can help kind of aid our growth. And then the final thing is where are we headed? So when we look at the week, I'm going to break down what came through for each of those questions, but it just came through intuitively rather than reading for the cards. So when I asked what energy brought us into this week, this was not a surprise, but what I saw was kind of an image of like we're looking in the mirror and we're looking at ourselves and we're studying ourselves, and it's a little bit foggy and gray, not like unlike the what's going on behind me here. And it was like wiping it off and then seeing myself, seeing us clearly. This is a collective message, so I interpret these things always in the context of anybody who hears this message as a group. So the energy that's carrying us into this week is a sense of reflection, of wiping off the mist or the fog and seeing our reflection more clearly, which is really congruent with the information that came through last week, where we talked about where we would end up by the end of the week is in a much more honest place. We were going to rock and roll with some things, and by the end of the week we were going to kind of see ourselves more honestly, like where we were at. I think that goes for us individually and also us collectively, kind of seeing where we're at, our role in the world, the state of the world, and sort of our relationship to that, but also our relationship to ourselves. Since I look at our spiritual growth so often just at the personal level, realizing it's just a reflection back and forth of what's going on. The macro and the micro are always a reflection of each other. So the energy bringing us into this week is just kind of a more honest view, and honestly it feels a little more grounded too, a little more real. So if we're looking in the mirror, that's like looking at the lines on our face or the grays that are coming in our beard here, and be like, okay, that's where I'm at, that's who I am. The good news is this week, the energy that is strong with us, where we're in our power, what I got was acceptance. I got this overwhelming sense and feeling of acceptance. So I think as we look at this week and we're sitting with what's coming up, or we're getting into meditation and we're prayer and we're seeking answers and guidance, know that acceptance is going to be strong with us. So that vibration, that frequency is something that we can really lean into. So when I look at these two things together, being more honest with ourselves and looking at acceptance, I think if we're being reflective, we're asking questions, where do these emotions come from? Where do these sensations come from? Why? What are they connected to? Where do my ideas and beliefs about the world come from? What are they connected to? What are they rooted in? My views about myself, how I look, how I feel, this sense of judgment or shame about feeling sad or depressed or anxious. Where do those feelings come from? What is that? Those are some of the questions we might be asking ourselves, and why I'm always such an advocate for becoming still and getting into meditation, intentionally connecting with God's loving awareness and asking these questions and kind of listening and seeing what comes back, is we get into that space. God's loving awareness is going to accept us for exactly who we are, where we are, wherever we're at. And so if we can spend time in that vibration, if we can spend time with that state of consciousness, we can move into just a kind of more gentle relationship with ourselves, and a much more honest one, because we can just see where we're at for where we're at, not judge it, not shame it, not get overly excited about it, because that's a thing too. We can get like really, really proud of ourselves about maybe some growth or something what we've done, and that kind of swings the pendulum the other way, right? And I guess that kind of takes me into the third piece that was coming through about, what are the things that Spirit wants to bring to our awareness that maybe we're not seeing clearly. And the thing that I got was balance. So we're really striding towards balance this week. We're looking at ourselves more honestly. We're asking honest questions. And because the spirit of acceptance is really strong with us this week, we're not gonna judge or shame or make any kind of value judgment, good, bad, or otherwise. We're not gonna pat ourselves on the back too much, and we're not gonna shame ourselves into a depression, but we're just kind of gonna see where we're at really clearly, and we're gonna ask honest questions. And when we get into that state of prayer or meditation and we connect to loving awareness, we're gonna be open and receptive to the love and God's love and acceptance of us and where we're at. And also just accept that wherever we're at is okay. I don't know what else to say about that. All in service of coming into balance. So I feel like sometimes on this journey, it's like a pendulum when we're swinging from one end to the other. We might feel really inspired, really connected, and really clear, and then there's like this pendulum swing that's back to confusion and anxiousness and a little bit of fear or anxiety about what's next. And what we're working towards is kind of a more honest, reflective, and accepting view of things as they are in the present moment, and recognizing that, yeah, some days we're over here, and that's okay. Acknowledge it. Be with it, but don't attach to it so much that as the flow starts to swing us back this way, that we're still hanging on over here so tightly and so dearly because we've identified with whatever state this is, and that allows us to not now swing naturally, where we're going. This is it reminds me so much of like concepts in Taoism and Eastern philosophy of balance and sort of seeking harmony and calibrating between light and dark, positive and negative, black and white, the yin and the yang, and sort of settling into a space where we can move along that spectrum in a non-judgmental way, which is a very loving thing. When there's non-judgment, when there's acceptance, there's love. That's kind of what we're moving towards right now. That's what it feels like. So understand that these energies are really strong with us. So if you've had a hard time accepting where you're at, for whatever you're feeling, whatever's coming up, good, bad, or otherwise, don't be afraid to get into meditation, get into prayer, and ask God's loving awareness to show you the path to accepting these parts of yourself. Asking for the strength and the courage to accept these parts of yourself that maybe you're struggling with. And also don't be afraid to ask honest questions and be open to maybe new points of views and perspectives that you haven't considered. And I feel like the guidance that will come through for you this week if you partake in that endeavor, which I encourage everyone does on their own and in their own time and in their own way, I think what you'll find is you're going to be kind of like gently walked back into balance, which feels really nice. We need more balance in the world. I feel like if we look at what's going on, especially collectively, lots of polarization, lots of rigid thinking one way or another, and it's like it continues to it's like tearing. It feels like a tearing that's happening in our consciousness, which I feel like that's a lot of what's happening. The good news is I've seen this in a vision where this consciousness starts to tear onto polar opposites. That creates space to be filled by something new. If you're hearing this message, if you're following my page, know that I can say with confidence, you're hearing this message because you're one of the people who is not only capable, but is being called to step into that balance, step into this way of being that is more integrated, right? We're not this, we're not that. We recognize this and that can exist at the same time on a spectrum, and that it's all part of the same reality, it's all part of the same thing. And that we can actually, through our own work, our own practice of love, honest reflection, acceptance, opening up to God's loving awareness, and asking for that creative intelligence to fill us with inspiration, with ideas, with wisdom, that can allow us to step into that void that is being created of a more unified consciousness, a more balanced and integrated consciousness that is what is upon us, is this opportunity to allow that consciousness to emerge. So we're moving through some eclipse season. We're closing out the year. I think everybody's feeling that stuff in a very intense way. The last couple weeks have been very emotionally intense. And I think where Spirit is guiding us now is to integration. We entered a new moon Sagittarius, and we're heading into the new year. It's an opportunity to step into something new. And I know I'm using hand motions. Imagine, you're watching me, the imaginary consciousness tearing in between my hands. And as we open this up, we can see this really bright and beautiful integrated consciousness, this light of loving awareness emerging from the center of that. So that stuff's gonna still happen. And I'm just gonna encourage those of us who are hearing this message to not get pulled too far either direction, into this or that, black and white, red or blue, positive or negative. You all know what I'm saying. Step into the middle, step into the integration, step into the balance, step into the nuance. That's where truth and reality lies. I feel like the thread here is, a couple weeks ago, we got the truth is not in the sensational, but in the subtle. And last week we got into rocking and rolling with these emotions and starting to get to a more honest place with ourselves. And so it's almost like there's been a big reset, because there's been an exhaustive phase of emotions coming up and things from the past, and having to take honest looks at stuff that's present that maybe we thought was gone or is past or that we had processed, but it's being asked, it's coming up and being seen again, and we're going, okay, no, but it's all still there. I got to do something with this. I got to integrate it. I got to love on it. I got to accept it. I got to see it for what it is, and then I have to not only integrate it, but make new choices moving forward about how I'm going to show up in relation to these things that come up. Does that make sense? Balance and integration is the unconscious influence right now, but it can become conscious if we heed this message and we step into it, right? And what I got for where we headed at the end of the week, if we open up to this guidance that wants to come through, step into this flow state that is being presented to us through this message, through this channeling, where we're headed is, I got back to the first vision, the first image of, I'm not going to say myself, it wasn't really me, it was actually kind of just like a nondescript person, that was looking in the mirror. So that's why I feel like it's a collective thing. Turns away from the mirror and then steps out and then faces the world. So it was kind of a cinematic thing. If I was operating the camera, it was like I had this over the shoulder looking at the person staring at the mirror, and then when they turned around, we kind of pan around, and we whip around and see the person facing the world. So what does that mean? It means by the end of the week, there's an opportunity for us to sort of step into the world and put this integrated consciousness, this more balanced perspective into practice. So you might be called to step into a situation, or you might be confronted with a group of people or a conversation or interaction that is going to sort of maybe trigger some of these honest reflections that we've just discussed or gone through, and we're to get to step into this and actively choose to be more integrated in our approach and how we respond and how we show up in the world. And that can show up in a little way, and it can show up in a big way. I don't know who all is going to hear this message. I know who's going to hear it are the people that are meant to hear it, but I don't know what the specific situation is, or the specific learning or lesson or personal quality, that is being asked to come into balance, to be asked to be integrated, to be less polarized, to step into something a little bit more whole. But by the end of the week, by the end of the 7-day period, we're gonna have an opportunity to do that. So I hope this message serves you well. I hope that it resonates for you. I hope that you can take some nuggets and apply them in your journey this week. It is absolutely a pleasure to be able to share this time and this space with you all, so I really thank you for being here. If you have any questions, don't feel free to reach out. If you have any reflections, leave them in the comments below. But thank you for spending this time and being open to this message, and I hope it serves you well on your journey. I'll see you around soon. See ya.